agenda. What do farmers need the most?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to address this meeting. We all know that farmers are the doers. They are not very good at talking, and you normally find them much more enthusiastic in practicing their trade. So they don't have enough time to discuss and talk about the future in a very systematic and organized way. So there is need really to try and bring their voices into the discussions that are shaping the future of food and food systems. Their voices are essentially absent in those discourses. That could be at the global level, might be at the regional level, as well as at the practical level. The problem that we face with that kind of an arrangement is that if you are not part of the designing process, if you are not part of the conversations that are shaping the future, it's very difficult for you to buy into it, and therefore change becomes very difficult for you to sort of do without being pushed into it. And when you are pushed into change, it's not really sustainable. You need really a self-driven change. So the call for us is really to look at how we can find resources to strengthen the involvement and engagement of farmers' organizations in the dialogue process, and for them to be able to inform their constituencies, for the constituencies to become aware of that which is coming and how really to manage it. Quite often, because of the fragmented nature and the geographically widely dispersed nature of farmers, it's very difficult to get the resources that are required to really organize them into a stronger voice for them to be heard. So again, the last call may be to look at how we can see the farmers' organizations as a critical infrastructure for scaling up by capacitating them both financially and technically for them to be able to play the role that they should be playing vis-a-vis their members who are farmers as well as other stakeholders in the process.
Thank you. Helianti Hillman, you're an entrepreneur who has brought indigenous food products of remote Indonesia to the broader market, and your exhibition is here, out here. We can taste your beautiful forest honey. What's needed to drive socially responsible but commercially viable business models?
Yes, I'll be very direct. There is 2 points there. First, it needs to be commercially viable, because for it to be sustainable, it has to be commercial. And it can only be commercial if the product is relevant to the market. We don't want people to buy the product because they feel sorry. They have to buy the product because the product is a winning product, is a relevant product, is a good product. That's the only way we can get the community-based products to make it to the market. That's one. And second, when we talk about the social aspects of it, we need to stop putting the farmers only as the upstream supply chain. They have to be the master of their own faith. How? Through entrepreneurship. It's time for the farmers, foragers, fishers, not only to sell commodity, but they have to sell added value products. Only when they are enjoying the value from the added value products, which they can get it. So I always consider myself like an artist manager. I'm the manager, they are the artists, and we are celebrating them.
Thank you. Please thank my panel and go and enjoy Helianti's beautiful forest honey.
Very loud clapping because it's a beautiful panel. Beautiful panel. Every one of them. Because it's all about getting people to come together and to work together and to follow those who are going to be affected, make certain that we get the results. Ladies and gentlemen, let's now move ahead. I want to congratulate Melissa and the panel for their timeliness, absolutely fantastic. We've now got a session where we're going to look at the food we're having tonight. We're going to think about food, and I'd like to invite Professor Jess Fanzo to come up. Jess, you might know from other times, but here, please give us a great big clap for the role that she's played.
So it's a real pleasure to be here. What we eat matters. Who produces what we eat matters. Who prepares our food matters. Diets are now the #1 risk factor in the world for disease and death. The diets, is anyone listening?
Hey!
Awesome. Our diets are not healthy, they're not sustainable, and they're not equitable. We need to change that. The FOLU report, the Eat Lancet report, the IPCC report, all these reports make bold recommendations. But at the end of the day, it's the people who are producing our food, they're getting their hands dirty, they're getting their hands wet, that matter. And I'm going to introduce 2 people that are walking the talk every day, cooking and preparing and thinking about food for the global citizenship of the world. So we have Sam Kass, many of you know, famously the chef of the Obama family. Remember those days? Remember those days? He has an incredible book. He's an investor now in the future of food. He's really a giant and a leader, particularly in the United States. He's really rallied youth and other chefs. We also have Pierre Chiem, Senegalese. I met Pierre back in 2007 and ate at his Brooklyn restaurant, which is now in Manhattan, Yolale Foods. He also is a chef, an activist, a food entrepreneur, pushing a food revolution in Africa. So let's start first with Sam, and then we'll move on to Pierre. These are the guys that are doing the hard work to feed us.
How's everybody? How's everybody in the back? All right, good. First of all, and this doesn't count for my time, I just want to give a shout out to David Nabarro, who has been one of the most dogged champions for humans and for the planet that I've ever known, and for really the visionary behind all of why we're here today. So please, can you thank him for his great leadership?
Woohoo!
So part of the reason that we've failed until now to actually move these issues forward in the way that they needed to was because we haven't connected emotionally with citizens, and we haven't created a sense of urgency. But when I tell you that experts are telling us that many of the foods we eat and that we're drinking back there tonight won't be around for our kids and grandkids, like wine, chocolate, coffee, we start to get a sense of really what's at stake. Now I think everybody's like ready to go. If I'm going to take away those 3 things and we can't have those in the future, we definitely have to take much more aggressive action. And it doesn't stop there. The list of ingredients that our kids won't have is quite long. And food has been systematically left off the agenda around climate change. Even in COP21, I was there, and I felt like a complete outsider trying to get people's attention to talk about food and food systems. So today's report is a real milestone in the progress we're making in elevating the importance of these issues for all of our work. We're so far over time that I'm going to cut everything super short. And we talk way too much in this space, and we don't act anywhere with the sense of urgency and ambition. But right now, we're way too comfortable. We're not getting out of our comfort zones when it comes to the amount of effort and risk we're taking towards change. So that means investors have to put a ton more capital to work. That means politicians have to propose positions that are super uncomfortable politically. That means that voters have to vote out lunatics like Trump and Bolsonaro if we actually want to get this done. We have to start talking much more politically about what we're doing. If those people are running our countries, none of this stuff we're talking about is going to work. But chefs and food companies have to actually start taking the ingredients that are nutrient-dense and sustainable and making them real. And that's exactly what my dear friend Pierre is going to tell you about. He's doing it. But in the end, I came here right before I came here, I was cooking dinner for my 2-year-old and my 5-month-old, who will be 12 and 10 when basically the deal is sealed, whatever it's going to be. They will have no say in their future. And I just implore all of us to go much bigger and much stronger than we've been doing, because so far we've fallen way short on behalf of the next generation. So Pierre, if you tell us, show us what you're doing is exactly what we need. It's exactly the model that we all need to emulate. So it'd be great to tell us about your work.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I'm going to go very quick because we have very little time. But basically, we need a system change. And what we did a few years ago, I co-founded a company called Yolele Foods. And our mission was to work with smallholder communities in the Sahel region of West Africa. The Sahel region, for those of you who know, is in the south of the Sahara Desert, like where nothing else grows. The poorest farming communities you can find in this world. And working with them, we identified a few crops that are great for the environment, because this is where it starts. It starts with the environment. That's what we're talking about here. And the agriculture system, that's what we really, really need to change. And we realize that those farmers are actually showing us the way, because they believe in agroforestry. They're doing it the proper way. And all they need is support. They have no support. They've just been doing something that they learned from their ancestors, and they're carrying it over and over the centuries. And it's not sustainable because there's no markets for them. What we did with Yolele Foods was to identify certain products and open markets for them. And that's really why I'm very proud to have collaborated with Noor on the Future 50 Foods project, which is this book that you see here. Some of you have it on your chairs. The Future 50 Foods did identify 50 crops that are better for health, for people, and for the planet. And some of those foods, one of them is called fonio. Fonio is an ancient grain that's been around for 5,000 years, and I'm sure most of you have never heard of it. Well, let me tell you about fonio. First of all, it's great for the environment. It's one of the fastest maturing grain. It's drought resistant. It grows in poor soil. I told you about the Sahel region where nothing else grows. That's where fonio thrives. The other thing about fonio, it's great nutrition too. It's gluten-free. It's rich in amino acids, 2 amino acids in particular that are deficient in most other grain. It scores very low on the glycemic index. So it's a grain that needs to be supported for many reasons, for the environment, for the people that consumes it, and also for the people that grow it, because opening markets for them will just improve the economic development of those regions. So that's the vision behind Yolele Foods. The idea was to work with those farmers. But this vision is not going to happen unless we get support from governments and businesses and NGOs and researchers, because we need researchers to improve the seeds. We need NGOs to train and to equip the farmers. We need governments and businesses to invest in infrastructures. On our site here with Yolele, we've been opening markets. We have in a couple of years opening, we have over 300 retailers, food services, Whole Foods distributing our fonio crop. And there are other crops as well that are doing just as fonio. One of them is also called Moringa. You'll find it in the Future 50 Food book. Moringa is great for the environment. It's one of the plant that has the highest amount of protein, and it grows in Africa, it grows in India. It's very resilient. Today you're going to get a chance to taste a croquette made out of fonio and moringa, so you'll have an idea of what it tastes like. It's delicious. And fonio cooks in 5 minutes, by the way. That's another thing you need to know. So this whole vision of Yolele Foods is really a vision that requires everybody's work. We need to change the way we eat. We need to I see your friend coming up right now.
He's stalking you.
So
Our time is up.
Time is up. I'll just end with a quote from Nelson Mandela. A vision without action is only a dream. An action that doesn't come from a vision is a waste of time. A vision followed by action can change the world. Let's change the world.
Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are at the back,
Great job.
could you now come into the main part? We're just reaching the very final part of our show, and we want you all here. Why? Because as you heard from our panelists, food and nature, it's about feelings. and I'd like you to come in if you can. If those of you who are sitting at the back, standing at the back, drinking and eating, bring your glasses, bring your plates, come into the body of the auditorium, and then we'll have the closing moment. Please come in, back to your seats. There you are. Thank you. Just come to your seats now. Trouble is, you can't hear me. Those of you who are standing at the back, just come into your seats for this last bit. Thank you very much indeed. There's somebody who has been the principal guiding spirit behind the work of the Food and Land Use Coalition. He's been doing a lot more as well. I'd like you to put your hands together now, please, for Jeremy Oppenheim, the founder and principal of the Food and Land Use Coalition. Jeremy. Kavita Prakash Mani, Naoko Ishii, and Jeremy.
Wow, it's quite bright up here. So first thing is, I want to thank absolutely everybody here, because I know it's been a long night, right? And there may be more to come, and there will be food afterwards and drink afterwards, so please stay with us. But it's been a long night because this is such a key set of issues, and to tackle them properly, you have to go from the food we eat to the nature-based solutions to the people who have to sit at the heart of the solutions, right? And bring it all back together. So it had to be a long evening. But I hope it hasn't felt like that in the audience. What I'd like to do is just give the floor just for 45 seconds to Naoko, who has so wonderfully headed up the Global Environment Facility, to share with us why she is so impassioned about what we're doing. And then to Kavita to tell us a little bit about tomorrow night. And then I want 1 minute all of attention from everybody to end the evening.
Thank you, Jeremy. Very good evening to everyone. The GEF, which I have been leading for the last 7 years, was created in 1991 to save the global environment, or to save the planet. And as you can see, we are completely failing that mission. And that's why is that? Because business as usual can't really solve the problem. We completely need to change the way we live. That's a transformation, that's an ecological civilization. So I was so keen to join this Food and Land Use Coalition because that's the most surest practical way to really solve this problem. And we have actually, together with many of you, have created this program, working now 23 countries, 10 landscape and value chain. But that's where real challenge started. You still see silos of ministry, the environment, the agriculture, the business and the government. But that is something we really need to get over. That the political will needs to be there. But it's not only political will, it's all one of us really have to get out of our own comfort zone to really join this collective effort. I really feel, particularly sitting here for 2 hours, this is our moment, and this may be our last chance. So let us work together. Thank you so much.
This is a critical week for all of us to be coming together, all the world leaders, heads of states, heads of businesses, heads of organizations, civil society, indigenous peoples, to really put our heads together on what action looks like. What we're calling for is to make commitments that over the next decade, we will be protecting all our remaining natural spaces and habitats through protection, community conservation, sustainable use. We want to halve the footprint of our food systems and our energy systems particularly, both halving the footprints of production and consumption. And we want to have no extinction of our remaining species and to have them thrive and be sustainable in the long term. How do we do that? We're holding to account heads of state, businesses, and all the other leaders. We're bringing them together at a leaders event where we have more than 12 heads of state and other leaders coming together to call for an emergency declaration for nature. And we are going to also look on Wednesday to co-launch with WBCSD and other partners the Business for Nature, which holds business to account to advocate for change, to commit to action, and to actually deliver the action. We have to do it, and we have to do it together to get to those nature plus climate outcomes that we want, and the time to act is now. So join us in this journey. Thanks, Joe.
So just to end the evening, I'd like everybody to stop what you're doing and to stand up across the room. And I want this evening to be one that you remember as one filled with more hope than fear, with many more actions than words, with a strong sense that in one big tent we can actually deliver extraordinary, extraordinary change. What I want everyone to do is to be quiet. And I want a moment of complete 1 minute of silence. And the reason we're going to have a minute of silence is to hold that in respect and to show our respect for the landscapes that we have all destroyed, for the species that are now extinct, for the millions and millions of lives of people who are not in this room, where those lives have been damaged beyond belief. And then in that minute, I want us also, while we stop and we don't talk, to think about the change that we as individuals and we together as a community can lead. Because I know there's a big wide world out there, and of course everybody needs to play their part, but this room is a special room because it's filled with leaders. And if we can all come together as we have tonight and lead together, then we can be the change we want to see. So what I want is just 1 minute's silence from everybody to do a little bit of grieving for what we've lost, but to do some real hoping and committing about the world that we're going to build together. So thank you. Thank you all so much. Enjoyed the rest of the evening. I hope you felt the power of your silence turning into the beauty of nature.
Just before you go home, I've asked the climate envoy of the Marshall Islands to come here and stand next to me just for a couple of minutes. Some of you will remember the power of Kathy Jetnall Kitchener's poetry, which some of us have heard before. And I've asked her if she wouldn't mind just giving us a couple of minutes of her words.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me some time. I know you're all very busy. The Marshall Islands is only 2 meters above sea level, and our islands are disappearing. I've already visited an island that's underwater. So when they asked me to meditate on something that's already been gone, I meditated on that island. So this poem is about being in that space, negotiating for our survival in these kinds of spaces as an atoll islander. And it's also about a cultural practice called the Gemim, and how we survive despite this loss, despite this fear. So this is the poem. When my daughter whines, I tell her, say what you want in a nice voice. My nice voice is reserved for meetings with a view, my palm outstretched saying, here are our problems. Legacies rolling out like multicolored marbles. Don't focus so much on the doom and the gloom, they keep telling us. We don't want to depress everyone. This is only our survival. We rely heavily on foreign aid, I am instructed to say. I am instructed to point out the need for funds to build islands, move families from wado to wado, my mouth a shovel to spade the concrete with, but I am just pointing out neediness. So needy, these small, underdeveloped countries. I feel myself shrinking in the back of the taxi when a diplomat compliments me. How brave for admitting it so openly. The allure of global negotiations dulls like the back of a worn spoon. I lose myself easily in a gemim. Gemim defined as feast, as celebration. A baby's breath endures their first years, so we pack hundreds of close bodies under tents, lined up for plates we pass to my cousin assembly line style. A child inevitably cries, mine dances in the middle of the party, a pair elbow each other to rip hanging beach balls from their strings, the MC shouts, the children are obstructing our view. Someone wheels a grandma onto the dance floor, the dances begin. Now here is a nice celebration of survival. Thank you.
Kathy, thank you. I'll shake your hands. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to those who made this evening possible. Feel strong. Good night.